Now, you're welcome along to our SuperValu Roadshow. We are here with thanks to SuperValu. They've created, by the way, a series of brilliant videos featuring their GAA ambassadors. Latest one has Galway's Damien Comer talking about his footballing career and how he coped over the summer without the regular GAA season. It is available along with loads of other GAA content on SuperValu's YouTube channel. This is very much a Connacht special, Connacht Final special. We had the Mayo boys on earlier on. Time for the Galway boys to do some talking. They have 6 Connacht championships between them. Finian Hanley, Michael Meehan, you're both very welcome, fellas. How you doing?
Hey, Joe.
Finian, let's start with the important business. Kieran Donaghy has a roommate.
Oh, disaster, Joe. Yeah, a disaster. Yeah, a funny one. You wouldn't. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but kind of like an excited child. He kind of reminded me of Dougal and Father Ted when we were in Australia. You know, when they go to the mainland and he's sticking his head out the window. He was that excited. Getting up in the morning, playing his ghetto blaster with Scatman John on out in the hallway and stuff like that. But no, a very excitable person when he goes away on a trip. All right, irregular hours of the night and day he'd be up. So an interesting one, Joe, to say the least. Yeah.
Donaghy, guilty as charged. Just happy to be out of the house.
Oh yeah, happy to be out and happy to be rooming with kind of getting to know fellas, and you know, it's important not to be shy around new fellas and just let them get to know you the best way possible. So myself and Finian was sick of me opening the curtains every morning without the jocks on. Basically, it was a major problem of the whole trip. But no, it was good. It was good. We got very friendly throughout the trip, and lucky enough to go in 2011 with him as well. But 2008 was brilliant because the 2 games were absolutely fantastic, and yeah, it was good that the 3 of us were involved in it and managed to get a win over there. And it's always nice to beat the Aussies on home soil. And poor old Finian got a bang in the chest, and we were 2 days going around trying to find some protective steel yoke that he could put on over his shoulders because he fractured some chest bone or something. He was trying to be a hard man and play on. So I spent one day traipsing around Melbourne looking for some fella that was going to make this special kind of suit of armour that you could wear underneath the jersey because to protect his chest. Who hit you that time again? I can't remember. I was trying to think the last day. Who hit you? He was the hard man in the Aussie rules anyway.
I've been reminded a few times now. It was a guy called Campbell Brown.
Oh, and, Campbell Brown.
Yeah.
Even sounds tough.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
It was. And you think we would have been a bit harder when we left. Like Mike McGurn was the trainer at the time. I know, Donnie, you paint a picture of when we're over there and the crack you have when you get over there and all that sort of stuff, and it's great. But to get there, when you're dealing with like the training to get there was absolutely horrific. It was the worst training that you wouldn't put anyone through it. He was of Bernard Dunn fame and Irish rugby, and Jesus, some of the nights up in Ashburn training to make that panel. It was all right for the 2 boys, Mike and Kieran, because they were shoo-ins, you know, but for the average Joes like us who had to go down to the last trial and try and get on the plane it was tough. So we were always training where Donaghy especially was, you know, Sean Boylan's pet going around. Boylan was, you know, the holistic herbalist, and Donaghy was trying anything he gave him just to stay on his side. And the same thing over in Australia. You know, we're heading off to a water park. Donaghy was down talking herbs with Sean Boylan, queued out, never trained a day. And the rest of us in a heat.
The best was the day we arrived to Apollo Bay. Do you remember that? And we went out. There was we were pulling into the hotel, and there was a bit of a bar. And so we got into the bar. We were after winning in Perth the night before, and this was kind of like an hour away from Melbourne or something. And we were going there for 2 days to do a bit of training and just to keep us away from Melbourne, keep us away from drink, basically, in Melbourne. A lot of Irish fellas landing in Melbourne after winning the game a week out from the game. It'd be hard to keep us in the Saturday and Sunday. So they brought us to this place. And myself and Finian and Joe McMahon, I'd say, when we were around in the corner, it was a ghost town. We were driving through a ghost town. We were around in the corner, and there was just this little kind of bar on the side, and it was like a high wall with small little kind of windows, and you could just see strobe lights going inside. And I was like, oh Jesus Christ, there's a bit of crack going on inside here. We might get a few drinks after all, because we were all dying from the night before. So we went down to the barman. We started drinking, talking to him, and next thing the vodka was flying, and there was an all-nighter back in the room, and then we were getting up the next morning, and we were going for a kind of a jog around in that oval in Apollo Bay, and I came down, I was absolutely dying, and I sat in next to Sean, And Sean looked at me and he was like, Jesus, Kieran, you look tired, like, you know. And I said, oh, geez, the jet lag, John. I thought that flight from Perth to Melbourne would be about an hour and a half. It was 6 hours. I said, well, I'd be in New York faster. And he was like, Jesus, yeah, you look very tired. You know what you do? Go back into bed and get a few hours rest. So I said, no problem, Sean. So I got off the bus by myself, walked by, and there was Finian and Joe looking out the window, absolutely horrified. Like, I give him the wink and off to bed for a few hours and nap.
Yeah, and Boylan rubbing herbs into your foot then because there was something wrong. Like.
No, he actually fixed my knee in like 2 days.
The gas thing is, you have, from my perspective and Finian's perspective, Joe, you're coming into the international routes trip this year. We're talking about is 2008, but it was, and you're seeing these names as, you know, Kieran Donaghy. You don't really know him. Joe McMahon, Sean Kavanagh, all these lads, all the stars. Lads who have, you know, lit up Croke Park in September and won their All-Ireland, or maybe lost their All-Ireland and whatever else. And you in your mind, you have a preconceived notion of what this guy is like. But then when it's fantastic kind of to get on these trips because, number one, you want to learn and kind of figure out what drives them, what makes them tick. But then you find out like that they're just the nutbags and the loon balls that you have in every club and every team as well. Obviously, they bring it on game day as well, but it was that kind of experience I ruined with Joe McMahon, and he's been mentioned already, and I'd say his name could be hot off the lips a few times tonight before we finish. But it's that international rules it's a great occasion, and it was a great kind of environment just to give lads, you know, there's a treat element to it and there's a prize element to it, but there's a lot of seriousness and competitivity as well. Yeah. And certainly in that year we got it right, and credit to Sean Boylan because you know, it was straight down the line. There was, apart from Kieran and Finian, you know, no one else stepped out of line. But he demanded that we delivered, and we did, and then, you know, we could enjoy it after that. So it was amazing. Like.
I'm sure it was, and Finian's being modest because he played in 5 different series. I know he's saying you two were shoo-ins, but obviously Finian took to that game brilliantly. Michael, was training I know you're playing a different sport, so maybe it doesn't quite apply, but I'm just thinking, you know, there's club training and then there's a big step up to county training. And here you are now with the best 20, 30 in the country. Physically, you know, they're that bit faster, that bit sharper, that bit more intelligent. That was probably as kind of high a quality of training as you would have been involved in.
Yeah, it would. For sure. You know, it's as much, you know, you're there. It's a trial. You know, there's a as I said, there's kind of a friendly element to it, but at the same time, you know, you're pitting yourself and you're wanting to kind of go that extra mile and see, can you go beyond your club and your county and represent your country. So it's like being called up to the senior squad for the first time again, or going in with the minors for the first time again. There's the butterflies there and the excitement there. Yeah. And like, that's a great thing to have as a player. You know, when you lose that kind of bit of an edge in your, and you know, the tenseness in your stomach, you're not going to deliver. And like I remember one stage we were trialing in Croke Park. It was the same year, 2008, and Tommy Walsh was there. Now, he didn't actually travel with us in the end, I think, but I remember just seeing him, like a giant of a man, right? And we were just banging balls into the Canal Inn just before the training started, and he just goes in and he picks up 2 O'Neills like this, just grabs one O'Neill in one hand, one O'Neill in the other, and just plucks them out. And I was like, my God, like just the shovels that he had, and you know, you had Bernard Brogan up the other end, then, you know, like banging in the goals as well. So, and like a trial game in Croke Park as well was pretty special. You know, like the likes of myself and Finian, and unfortunately didn't get there, you know, too many occasions with Galway down through the years. So even when you got there for a trial game like that, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and the trial games were a nightmare, you know, because like we were out of the championship, so we were there earlier. Like I'd be up there now. Maybe Mikey, you know, you could take but we, like, the guys really trying, were there a bit earlier. But you'd never had a 15-on-15. You know, you might have enough for an 11-on-11 on a full pitch out in Ashburn or up in Croke Park, and you're in marking Bernard Brogan or someone like that, and an absolute nightmare because it's just pile of space. The final score would be 15-42 and you're just your GPS is broken, is beeping like mad because you're just the mileage you're putting in. So that I used to, like, that was a disaster. Like, big open pitch, all kick pass, and playing in the full back line, like, sure, like, good night. There was no chance. You just have to win 1 or 2 balls to try and, you know, when the management were looking at you, get a hand in or do a good tackle, where Mike McGurn is really, you know, loving it, and he's saying, Sean, geez, your man can tackle and you're in, or whatever it is. So it was all about timing what you did, because you did damn all game. It was a forwards trial, you know. So
yeah, but
no, they were tough.
it was a forwards trial. It was a forwards trial, and your man, and you allowed rugby tackle. And Finian was excellent at that. That's why he took to the Aussie rules so good, because he was so used to kind of grabbing you all the time. Because
that's true. Yeah,
I played him in a league game, and I was going around like this for a few minutes in Tralee one year, and I was like saying, "Jesus Christ, Finian, this isn't the Aussie rules we're playing."
So
it takes.
Go on. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to come in. It takes. I found it took a while to get used to the tackle, though. You know, the first trip I was on was actually an underage, under 17s used to be ran back in the day, and got over to Australia at that point. And that definitely helped, you know, rolling forward into the adult trips thing, because the mentality is there for so long as a GAA player that you stand off or you tackle the ball or whatever. But the idea of wrapping the hands in around was alien. But definitely, and the lads will probably, you know, back me up on this, it was the more experience you had of it, and it was actually a test experience. The experiences of Ireland trainings, as much as you wanted them to be, they just failed to be the raw, you know, split-second intensity of the wrapping and pulling to the ground. And I think that's what I learned from it anyway, that you really got a sense of that only when you played the Aussies.
So this is a kind of Connacht football special. We've had the Mayo lads on already. If I take from kind of 04 to 16, broadly speaking, you know, looking at your careers, Mayo won Connacht 8 times. They did the 5 in a row in that period. Galway 05, 08 and 16. Sligo won it in 07. Roscommon won it in 10. So it's kind of a period where Mayo are in a really good place. You know, when we talk to the Mayo lads, for them 1951 is legendary and it's there. Whereas for ye fellas, Galway's All-Ireland wins are very, very real. They're part of your childhood. You watch them, and then you're next generation in. So give us a sense of that, Finian, because that can't have been an easy act to follow. What was that like?
No, to be honest, Joe, it was both tough and exciting. It was exciting at the time. I suppose we were, you know, coming off. You know, we were kind of minor. You know, myself and Mike are quite close in age. We were coming off minor teams and then into under 21s, and we won the All Ireland under 21 in 05. And we were starting our careers then with the likes of Michael Donlan, Porrick Joyce, you know, Sean O'Dupuer coming to the end, Savo, they were all there as well. So we were thinking, you know, this is great. There's an All-Ireland under 21 team, which you see a lot of coming, and you're coming in with these boys who have been there, done it. They're still relatively young. I suppose like a lot of those lads were only 27, 28 at the time. So now you'd think they were in their prime. So you know, it was exciting, but again, it was tough as well, because there was that perception all the time that Galway have to be, you know, way up here. And, you know, everyone looked at Galway, you know, in-house as well. It was like, well, we're going to win the All-Ireland again in 05, 06, because, you know, we've another crop coming, but the boys are still there and they've done it. So, you know, there was pressure there to perform and get back to the top, you know, the glory days of 98 and 01. I suppose on the flip side of that, the game started to change a little bit. 03, I think, when Mickey Hart and the Armagh teams started, the game started to evolve a bit on the defensive side, and you know that wasn't welcome in Galway. It wasn't. You know, it was far from welcome in Galway, and I don't think it was ever accepted until Kevin really brought in the hard defensive system, you know, not so long ago there. So so we kept playing the Galway way, you know, and we had the players, and we always felt we had the players, but we came up against teams of lesser ability, we thought, or so people would perceive, and we were turned over because they'd set up defensively, and we were wondering, you know, we're kicking the ball into our forwards, and we've 6 forwards standing inside their 45, and you know, why is the ball coming out? They seem to have more defenders, and it took us a while to evolve. Like we had Mikey might back me up here, but we had some fantastic teams and setups. I suppose we had Peter Ford as manager at the time after Jono, and Des Ryan was the coach. He's now the head of the Arsenal Academy. He was one of the best coaches. You know, he was the Irish rugby strength and conditioning coach, and Donny Buckley was the football coach. So like, you couldn't ask for any more. And then on top of that, you had all the All Ireland winners and a host of under 21s that had won the All Ireland. So you think it was the perfect blend. But I think the difficulty was, you know, we didn't adapt to the new style of football very well. And anytime we tried to, it was thrown out because Galway people didn't accept it. So I think when Liam Salmon came in 08, we played the Galway way, you know, kick pass and very, very skillful football. We had a little bit of of a successful 2 years. We 08 was quite good, and 09, but then after that, then all those guys fell away, and we were kind of left to our own devices in transition for a number of years after that. And Mayo just came with that team in 10, 11, and that was it until Kevin came back. So look, it was difficult, it was exciting, but a lot of regrets from our side.
Michael, you were unbelievable throughout your whole career, but your success at underage level, I remember you in the school final against Connacht Final, that famous game with Charlottes. Remember watching you all the way up at that age, and he had under 21 success, and as Finian rightly points out, the blend seemed good. Yeah. Did you lose any fellas from them squads like that you would have said if he kept his, because I know Galway, we played international rules there in 06, and there's been plenty of night of the races there, and it's a mad town and a great town, and you could go out every night in it. But did you ever lose fellas that you said, Jesus, he could have helped us along the time you were very close to trying to get to that All Ireland over the line?
Yeah, I think we did. I suppose there's always an attrition level out of every underage team, be it minor, under 21, and so on. But there would have been a couple of lads, and I'm thinking back at the day you were looking for the metal breastplate for Finian, because there was the games you mentioned with Clash and the Skellige were both went to extra time, both went to replay, and there was 2 days out, right? So and Darren Malahy would have been centre back for us at that stage. I remember he was driven straight to the doctor or wherever we could get him into straight after the first game. And there was no way he could have played the next day. And he went out and, he started from centre back again and launched us, on every attack. But there's lads like him, there was Damien Dunleavy, another fantastic minor, and won a Hogan Cup with St. Giles as well, as did Darren Malahy, Alan Burke, lads like that who all won under 21s in 2005 with myself and Finian on that team, and just had maybe a year or 2 or 3 with Galway, but cruciates and injuries and setbacks and hamstrings and just things that didn't go away, and there's other
college life and
yeah, definitely. But they were the lads you would have had you would have said these guys are going to be playing for Galway for 5-10 years, and if with a little bit more luck, certainly on the injury front, the couple of lads like that would have been there, and they were winners. They'd won Hogan Cups, they'd won under 21s. They would have been good lads to have there for 5-10 years, and it just didn't work their way. The balance was there. You would have thought, and looking back, and even going through it, it was very frustrating as a player, because you wanted to succeed, you wanted to emulate 01, the 98. You still had enough of them there, you felt, to kind of to glean the knowledge and the experiences from and use them essentially to get you along the road to an All-Ireland, or even to the latter stages of an All-Ireland. And we just kept stumbling at quarter-final stage for a few years. And I remember, was it Brendan O'Sullivan in 05? He cracked the cork with us in a quite a good game in Croke Park. Brendan Ger top cornered from somewhere between the 14 and 21. Sorry, Finian, I hope I'm not bringing back a bad memory for you, but it was an amazing goal.
Just over it.
And we just had things like that. Maybe we're crying here over spilt milk, and it's hard luck stories, but there was far too many 1-point losses along the way. But a lot of that comes back down to, I suppose, ourselves, and we just didn't deliver enough. We just didn't. You have to, when a game is there to be won, collectively as a group, there has to be the 5 or 6 lads who just really are kind of saying, not today. We're not being bet today. And then that feeds into the other lads around, and I suppose we lacked a little bit of that.
How does that sit with you both, actually? Because often when we do these pieces, it's the winners, or it's the Mayo lads have a kind of real compelling heartbreak story, for want of a better word, whereas you're kind of somewhere in between there. And now that you're out the other end of it, I wonder how that sits with you.
It's not great, Joe, to be honest. You can't look. We're not. We didn't make the All Ireland finals. Semi-finals. Galway. I suppose Galway, as I said before, the perception is there of Galway being this great footballing county. And look, a lot of great footballers have gone through Galway, but in 50 years, we've won 2 All Irelands. One team, really.
Yeah.
Similar bunch of 30 players that came in 98, 2000, 2001. Won those All Irelands, and then the previous or before that, then it was 66, and we've been in 1 semi-final since 2001. So when you tot it up, it's it makes for grim reading. But from our own point of view, 05, 06, up to 0-10, we played in 5-6 Connacht finals. We lost 3 by a point. I suppose fine margins to having 2 or 3 Connacht titles and 6. Do you know what I mean? That the boys before us had. Look, we don't dwell on it. I suppose we all grew up playing to do one thing. I suppose Mike and myself were lucky enough to have won Club All Irelands, but that's not what we grew up dreaming about. No offense to the club, because obviously it's great and it's great as well. But when you're, Mikey has said this numerous times, when you're growing up kicking the ball off a wall, there's only one thing on your mind if you're playing Gaelic football, and that's winning the All Ireland with your county. And anyone that says any different is lying to you. So look, we were lucky to get winners' medals with our clubs, but we underachieved with Galway 100%. Everyone will say that, and until Galway get to a final and compete, then people will think we're underachieving. But when you tot up what we've done in the last 50 years, we're not as big a footballing county as we think we are.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, look, you kind of have to, I think you have to carry a certain amount of regret as a player, live through your time playing. It's what fuels you the next, in the coming season. And, or that's how I would have tried to motivate myself, trying to get the best out of myself, is the disappointments and twofold, the disappointments, and then trying to succeed and to win and be a winner. So it was difficult. It just didn't happen the way. If we had this conversation 20 years ago when I was a young lad, and fresh in my mind what was the Galway teams of 2001 and 98. God, you were saying like it's naivety, but it's only a matter of time. If I can get on this Galway team, I'm going to have an All Ireland too. And that was the mindset. And in fact, it's a great way to be as a young lad coming through. You got to have that, got to have the dream, and you got to chase the dream. And certainly myself and Finian, and I don't think anyone would expect, but we weren't chasing the dream. But we just, we didn't get within an ass's roar of it, I should say. And so be it. So you'd carry it with you, and it would be a burden. But at the same time, you kind of have to come to make peace with it. And I think, I have, because life goes on, and you begin to realize, to appreciate, what, other than
the journey,
medals, the journey, what football has brought to your life, and the experiences that you've gained out of it, and the opportunities, the trips, the international rules trips to Australia or whatever else. And you kind of look, you have to, I suppose, you have to look back at it, the whole package then, because if you're just looking back at it and saying, what medals have I got out of it, then I think you're always going to be disappointed.
Yeah. To your point, Kieran,
you're obsessed.
Just to your point about Galway and, the town and all that sort of stuff, like, Mike, you might agree, but we always had a couple of players. Like, every team has Jack the lads, and the crack is always good. And sure, when we go out, we drink the bag of it, and that's the crack you have, and you have that in the winter. But we always have one or two that stepped off the train at peak times in the season. Like, the winning teams don't do that. Like, if you go to the Dublins of this world, people think they're robots, but in the off season, those boys are as cracked as anyone. Donegal, Kieran, the boys yourself down in Kerry, like, we were all in coppers in November. Do you know what I mean? The crack is great. Like, we did have one or two really, really good footballers that stepped off the train, at peak times, coming into big matches and stuff like that as well. So, like, did we have that blistering, tunnel vision with everyone on board that they say it takes to get over the line? Questionable, at times, and we tried to train as hard as we could and tried to get it to a level, but look, there was a bit of a party element to it as well at times with certain individuals and stuff as well. So look, that there's regrets there as well. In Galway, there was a nice. We played Dublin. Do you remember, Mike, in Parnell Park? 29, maybe 10, and we bet the Dubs in Parnell Park. I think it was the last time they played in Parnell Park, someone said last week. But you were playing Tyrone up in Oma, Kieran, at the time.
That's right.
And everyone rendezvoused in Coppers. So the Kerry boys and the Galway boys all in, and sure, it was all. And I remember we were in there, Carl Jackson had us upstairs, and the crack was good. It was late now, well, it was early. the next day, and we're all sitting up around the table, and Seamus Cannon was shouting out, "He's the Galway boys are great crack." The Galway boys are great crack.
I'm after writing down one name here.
It's all right. You
Seamus
say we're great crack. We're heading off to try and figure out how to win. You boys are heading off winning All Ireland. Of course, we're fucking great crack. You know.
I had a flashback there. I'm just after writing Seamus Cannon's name down on a piece of paper here, as that story was being told.
Yeah. And the gooch firing a fried egg across the kitchen, saying, "Oh, sure, up Galway and all this," but the boys were going off winning All Ireland.
Exactly. Yeah.
We were going. Yeah, we were happy to be beating the Dubs in the league match.
Qualifiers.
The crack was good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Joe, we bamboozled Joe.
True story.
Well, I'm just waiting. The gooch firing a fried egg is an image all in itself. Yeah. Jeez, look, I guess the other point, I mean, you've got the best Tyrone team that they'll ever produce, probably winning 3. You've got this mob from Kerry doing their thing, and they're pretty phenomenal as well. Cork nip in and get 1, but just that 1, and then suddenly you're into the Dublin years. So, like, not like it was easy either, in fairness, Michael, you know?
No, I know it wasn't, but I suppose if I think of all the names who knocked us out, you know, from 3 or 4 on, like, there's Antrim, there's Westmeath, there's Wexford.
Okay, I've got nothing for you on that. I've got nothing for you there.
Yeah, that's just those are the low ones. You know, those are low. There was Kerry here and there, and there was Cork as well, and there was Donegal. But you know, that's just kind of where it was at. And look, I'd love to relive them for years in some ways. And what would I do differently? I don't know. Is the thing. But again, if I could rewind, I think I would and go at it again. But it's just not easy. That's the nature of it, you know. And I suppose we're talking about where we were at that time. And I was listening to the conversation earlier with the Mayo lads, and you know, it's the same trend, you know, albeit in All Ireland final and replay losses and things like that. It's the same feelings, and I'm sure it's the same things coming back through their minds right now. But I definitely agree with you, or with what Larry was saying, Anthony Finnerty, about depending on your age is how you react to these things and how you bounce back. And for me, and I kind of missed some of my latter years through injury. But earlier on, you know, you bounce back pretty quickly. You know, you're disgusted having been beaten, you know, in a round 3 qualifier or whatever it was. But literally within a matter of days, or if not a week or so, you're raring for road again, and you're just all of a sudden it's tunnel vision to the next season. And that was the case in your late teens, early 20s. It does get harder. You know, I went back there for a year in 2017, and just, you know, there's a whole load of different things going on in your life, and you know this is it, do or die, and that's when it is harder, when you know that the door is closing on you, and you just have no control over it, and you're not maybe able to have the impact that you want to have to try and change things.
It's really interesting to have this chat, actually. Time is coming against us. Finian, before we let you go, Mayo obviously coming this weekend. How would you characterise in your period the rivalry with Mayo? Was there a proper edge to it, proper hatred, nice healthy respect? Were you hanging out in coppers together? What was it like?
It was, I suppose it was 2 halves, Joe. Really, you know, when we started for the first couple of years, we were competitive. We were beating Mayo. You know, like Mayo got to the All Ireland final in 2004. We beat them in the Connacht final in 2005. They did the same in 2006, and then we hammered them. Was it 2007? I think the following year. And you know, we took a lot of hope from that, because Mayo were up there competing, and you know, we were taking them the following year. Then 2008, you know, a couple of league semi-finals and stuff like that. So, you know, there was a rivalry then, because they were getting to the finals and we were going, Jesus, you know, are we that far away? Are we closer? It gave us that carrot to say, well, look, you know, we can beat these fellas and these boys can compete at the top level. Look, there's always a rivalry. You know, I know when I was growing up, my dad, God rest him, wouldn't. We couldn't eat ham in the house from Mayo. It was just the way it was, and it was bred into you, you know, like from an early age. Like the rivalry was always there, but like from 2010 when James Horan came in, you know, Mayo just were steamrolling us. You know, after 11, big competitive, but you know, from 12 on, they were steamrolling us. So the rivalry kind of came out of it, because we were, you know, in transition, kind of all over the shop. We didn't know whether we were coming or going, what type of team we were. So, you know, the rivalry was there as Galway people, and were we sitting there hoping they didn't win the All Ireland? You know, no, I'm sure a lot were, but I certainly wasn't.
Right.
Because in fairness, they deserved the respect. They were a super team. They're one of the best teams of all time, whether they win the All Ireland or not. So, look, there'll always be a bit of rivalry, but I think in that period it wasn't as strong as it should have been, because we had a lot more trouble, a lot more issues in house to be dealing with than thinking about Mayo. But Mikey will tell you, there's always that bit of hard edge when whether you're playing or you're not, and to this day there's always a bit of edge with the green and red, with with Anthony or Fat Larry there as well, and a bit of crack in the club. There's a lot of Mayo people in our club, so and when you get a few drinks and it gets worse, it gets more highlighted. So it's there, but Galway have to start getting to Mayo's level, I think, in house, before we can start getting that rivalry back to where it was in the 80s and 90s.
Okay. Well, listen, Finian Hanley, great to have you on. Great to chat to you. Thanks for reliving the horrors of a naked Kieran Donaghy in the morning in Australia. That's no easy thing to revisit.
Yeah.
Donaghy is sticking around, and Michael Meehan, we're going to get some thoughts from you ahead of the game on Sunday. That is all, with thanks to SuperValu, part of our SuperValu series of roadshows here, and they have some brilliant content on their YouTube channel as well, including Damien Comer, Galway fans, talking about what a strange season this has been. So you can check out SuperValu's YouTube channel for that.